You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Myles Teteak, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans that love talking about the Pack. We're not getting distracted by all that national media nonsense. We're sticking to real football, diving into the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season, and now sorting through all the draft dreams and drama of the offseason. If y'all want to support the pod, please spike that like button. Most importantly, jump on over to YouTube, type in Packers Talk Network, hit that subscribe button next to it, and it would do us a great big favor and only take you a very minimal amount of effort. Seriously, go do that right now. You hear it all the time because it works. It's very helpful. It means the world to us. Love you, subscribers, hanging out with us every Monday night at 9:30 p.m. Central, streaming live. Of course, we were not here last week. We're back. Glad to be back with y'all. I appreciate the flexibility and the lack of outrage over a missed week. I did get to go visit my dad down in Florida. Had a good time seeing him. Sometimes he tunes in, so shout out, Dad, if you're watching. But we're back, and we've got just amazing, massive news to cover here. More Packers talk than I think we've ever had. I don't know how we're going to cover it in an hour, Tim, but we're going to figure it out. But first, of course, got to stick to the business. And once again, our show is sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Bucks tickets, Brewers tickets, and any other sports tickets you're getting this week. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. And remember, of course, support all your local businesses, Wisconsin and otherwise. Tim, good evening, sir. How we doing?
Good evening, Myles. I'm doing good. How are you?
Not bad. It was good to get out of Texas for a little while. Got a little road trip with the fam. Got a little beach time. You know, that was kind of fun. Haven't been to the beach in a long time, so that was good. But very good to be home. It's always good to be home after a long trip. So feeling good, man.
Rested, recovered, had family time, and now I'm back to it. And
I don't know about rested. Doing a road trip with 3 children under the age of 8, I wouldn't describe as rested, but maybe there was some recovery. There might be a little bit.
You need a vacation from the vacation.
Yeah, that's where we're at now. But that's all right. It was good to get down there to see my dad. Hadn't got to see him in a while. He's living down there in Florida, loving the beach life that he gets to live. But definitely good to be back. Good to have the pod back on. And, of course, we've had just some absolutely riveting news going on that we totally missed last week. So I'm sorry we couldn't be here to cover it, man. Like, goodness gracious. Yeah. I don't know how we're going to catch up. But, yeah, you know.
I was going to say, like, the last time we talked, we were following up and reviewing the draft. There was a lot going on at that time. And then, boom, the offseason hit, and we're in that quiet time. I mean, we did have some news. We know who the kicker is going to be for sure, or we think, and we got a new backup quarterback. And we actually heard from Jonathan Gannon.
He's real.
He's real. He exists. Like, we sent people to the moon and back before we heard from the defensive coordinator, but it happened. Like, he truly exists. He didn't really.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
goodness.
Well, once in a while,
we really did. They circled around the moon and back before we could hear from our defensive coordinator.
Right. You know, it only took like 3 or 4 months, but we heard from him. He didn't say a whole lot, but that's okay. He's not Jeff Hafley at the podium. I have no problem with that. You know, hey, we'll see what he is as a defensive coordinator. He can be what he is if they have a great defense. I don't care what he sounds like at the podium. But, you know, at least we finally heard from him. We heard from the new special teams coordinator, who actually he sounded good. You know, he had some nice things to say, but it's special teams in Green Bay. So, you know how it's, I'll believe it when I see it. That's the nicest way I can put it. There's been a lot of these guys at special teams throughout my fandom, and yeah, it always ends the same way. So best of luck to Cam McCord or Acord. But he sounded good. But yeah. I mean, we're at the quiet part of the offseason. It hit fast after the draft, but we do know who the kicker is probably going to be, barring a really poor summer. It's going to be Trey Smack, and we know Tyrod Taylor is going to be the backup quarterback.
Is it Tyrod? Have we been saying this wrong the whole time?
Apparently, yeah. I always call him Tyrod, but
I was always on the Tyrod train. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, this was something that at one of his stops on the many teams that he played on, they corrected it, and he said, "Yeah, everybody has always called me Tyrod, and he doesn't really correct anybody, but it's Tyrod." So apparently, it's Tyrod. Okay.
Now we know.
Now we know.
Yeah. Since you have a responsibility of saying it correctly. So Tyrod, I'm cool with that. I got it. Gotcha.
Yeah. And hey, that was completely unexpected and out of nowhere, and it's crazy.
Right.
The news literally broke after Adam Stenavich had his session with the media. Like in between Stenavich and I think Acord was the next coordinator come up. Then the news breaks. So Stenavich didn't have to answer a question about it conveniently. And then was it either Acord or Gannon? I think it was Gannon was like, "Oh yeah, I met him. He's here, and I just met him in the hallway." I was like, "Oh, okay," because we're just all finding out that you're signing this guy. Your offensive coordinator just got done his press conference, didn't say a word about it, but the guy's in the building and meeting people. So yeah, that was kind of funny. But yeah, that certainly there was no reported news of that or interest by the Packers. Came out of nowhere. I think it's an upgrade over Desmond Ridder. Taylor's been around for a long time. Like I just said, he's been on a bunch of teams. You could probably name the teams he hasn't been on.
Right.
Fewer than the teams he's been on. But he's a veteran, and when he's gone in there and played, he's actually done a good job and kind of held his own and performed better than Desmond Ridder ever really did. So he gives you that. He kind of gives you that kind of peace of mind. Like if he's got to go in there, he's a veteran. And you can do some of the Malik Willis stuff with him. Now he's a lot older than Malik Willis. He's not going to have the mobility quite like Malik Willis does, but he's still got some of that, even in older legs. And he's, like he can go in there and do that veteran backup, manage the game thing. So yeah, I think it's an upgrade. I like the addition. I hope he never has to play. Or at least a meeting. Maybe he's coming in there to kneel down at the end of the game. That would be cool. Other than that, don't ever play a meaningful snap. And as a veteran guy, maybe he can be some guidance to Jordan Love. But yeah, that was an interesting signing. Didn't see that one coming.
No, I didn't see that. It kind of is reminiscent of when Julius Peppers signed. We get the news of Julius Peppers while he's on the field at Lambeau. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, I like it. I do like it. I like the signing. It feels similar to Malik Willis, obviously opposite ends of the age spectrum, but in terms of ability, you've got confidence in your QB2 at this point. It's not, can this guy do it? No, you've seen him do it. He can go in, he can be reliable, and in a situation that's maybe unexpected. But I like it. I think it definitely adds nice stability to the QB room. You got your rookie, also from Virginia Tech. You still have Kyle McCord back there, who, when we were talking about the 25 class, I thought he was a talented QB. I liked Kyle McCord more than most. Obviously, he didn't have a very good time at Ohio State. Looked better at Syracuse. But yeah, so I feel like you've got a good mix of stability and nice potential in that QB room behind Jordan Love. And of course, you just hope you never have to see any of them unless you're up by like 5 scores or something like that. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a good move, good stability move, good and for me, it kind of shows you what the front office is doing here. Man, they are not taking time here. They're not wasting any time on these things. And I think that's sort of the theme of what's going on with McManus and then letting him go. Also Nate Hobbs. I think in the past, there's been some criticism that they're slow to move on from mistakes or admit mistakes, not necessarily the QB position being a mistake. Malik Willis needed to go start somewhere, but addressing the situation. They're not wasting any time on these things. They know what they want, and they're going and taking care of it. They're checking all the boxes, and I like that. I think that speaks to the urgency. You get the GM talk or the GM speak from Goody. Oh yeah, we got to have increased urgency, but then he's demonstrating it, and that was pretty obvious with the Micah move. But now you're seeing it again. Move on quickly from mistakes. Nate Hobbs, and then obviously McManus, and now also address other situations quickly. Don't get into camp and find out that these young guys aren't going to cut it at QB2. Come into camp with stability. Come into camp with a guy that maybe he is older, but I think the reason that Tyrod Taylor has lasted so long in the league is he's got what it takes between the years. We talk about that a lot, and I think you see other QB2s that have lasted a long time in the league. Chase Daniels comes to mind, and a few others. It's not necessarily because of their physical ability. There's probably more talented guys out there, but I think it has a lot to do with what they contribute to the film room, what they contribute to the scout team for the defense, and then ultimately the stability they can offer if they do have to come in a pinch. So big fan of the move. I think it speaks to the front office's urgency.
And to your point about you don't want to have to get into training camp and realize your backup quarterback isn't good enough. You don't have that guy and then be forced to go and get somebody. That's how they had to go get Malik Willis, because they had a competition with Clifford and Michael Pratt, and neither one of those guys were good enough. And then you had to trade a draft pick, which, it was whatever, 7th round pick, but you had to go and get Malik Willis at the end of training camp. And obviously that worked out great for the Packers, but you don't want to be in that situation again. If you're not comfortable enough with Desmond Ridder right now, go out and get somebody that's better. And they did that. So, you're locked in now with Tyrod Taylor, and let the other two kids battle for a practice squad spot. So it makes sense. And it's one more thing to not worry about and to make you feel a little more comfortable with the situation.
Absolutely. So yeah, I like the move. I like where they're going right now with building the 2026 roster, but let's not waste any time here. Let's no more McMisses, dude. I'm totally great with this. I love that they are giving Trey Smack the vote of confidence to say, hey, it's your job, man. But not only that, we've talked about this a little bit, and I think that, maybe we were probably tiptoeing a little bit because you want to see what happens. You leave 7 points on the table in a playoff game, dude. It's a fireable offense. It just is. And I think that there was probably some element of they didn't cut McManus before to send a message, because you still don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face. You need to keep him there until you're sure that you have his replacement. So going into the draft, I talked about Trey Smack already. Back in January, I was telling you guys, don't be surprised if they draft a kicker. I think it's coming. Sure enough, that happens. But they were looking into him way back when, right? They already had their eyes on Trey Smack, and they had they were I'm sure doing their due diligence on the other kickers that didn't get drafted. But you can't go into the draft assuming you will get that guy. You don't know. And the fact that they traded up to get him, I think that tells us that there was potential for somebody else to try to grab him. But then you get him, you get your guy, you get him in the building, you get to see him in rookie minicamp, and you're like, yep, this is the guy. Okay, make the decision. McManus is out. See ya later, dude. And I know there's criticism. Why'd you pay him the bonus, all that? It's a small bonus. It's an insurance plan. They do that in case they don't get their guy. And then it's like, all right, well, we still got McManus. Get him into training camp. Maybe he can correct his mistakes. Now he doesn't have to. Now you've got the kicker of the future is what I think they believe. So I love the move, because I love that it gives you, it gives your new guy the confidence. And it also establishes that if you're not up to the standard, you're out. Nate Hobbs wasn't up to the standard. He's out. And they had to learn that lesson the hard way. So what? They admitted it. McManus, same way. Not up to the standard. You left 7 points on the table in a playoff game against your bitter rival, no less. There's got to be accountability for that. And I think that's what this is. So I love the move. What do you think, man? Is this too dramatic?
No, I like the move too. I'm fine with moving on from McManus. I'm a little surprised at the timing and just like overall by the situation with moving on from McManus. I'm surprised because I guess Goody fooled me on this one because I believe it was his end of season press conference at the end of last season after the playoff game. And they had asked him about McManus and how poorly he kicked, all the missed kicks in the Bears game, but also during the season when he was having all those misses. And he was almost like defensive of McManus. Like, McManus had gone into the playoffs. I think he made like 15 or 16 kicks in a row, field goals in a row. And he was like, well, he made all these kicks in a row and he's a veteran guy. And, earlier in the year, he was kicking hurt, which that's another situation. You and I talked about it a lot during the season. Was like, why the hell is this guy out there if he's hurt kicking the football? And you could see, he's missing kicks. Like, you have another kicker on your roster, use him. So we'll probably never get an answer to that. I don't know if that was Bisaccia or Goody or we don't know why he was continually put on the field and then would miss kicks while he was injured. But that whole situation was just handled poorly. But anyway, Goody, end of season, really defended him. And I'm like, okay, he still believes in McManus, I guess. He's going to ride with him. And I think he was asked again at the Combine and defended him. And so I thought he was going to be the kicker. And they paid him $1 million roster bonus in March. And I'm like, okay, once you pay that bonus, they're probably bringing an undrafted free agent. Then they're saying there's going to be a competition, but the undrafted kid really won't have much of a chance. And it'll be McManus going forward. And I know you brought up Smack, and I'll be honest, I thought you were crazy. I'm like, don't draft the kicker. And I'm still kind of like, don't draft the kicker. But they did, and they traded up to get him. And if he's their Mason Crosby, their long-term answer at kicker, great. I have no problems with it. I'm not in the boat of drafting kickers often, but if you hit on it and he's your guy for a while, fine. It's worth it. They did that, and then they still trot out there's going to be competition. And once they drafted Smack, it was he's going to be their kicker unless he has a falls flat on his face in camp and McManus is lights out. And then I could see them keeping McManus. I didn't think it was 100% Smack's job, but he had the edge for it. And now you're cutting McManus. It's Smack's job. I know Haversick's still there, and sure, it's Smack's job unless he's just so bad in training camp and preseason that they got to sign somebody else off the streets. I am surprised. I thought they would give McManus a chance, and then it would just end up being Smack. But I'm fine with it. You got to find out about him, And yes, it's big to put that on a rookie quarterback for a team that wants to be a Super Bowl contender, to trust a rookie kicker. Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. But you saw what McManus has been in the playoffs for you. It's not just the Bears game. He missed in a 38-yard field goal in the Eagles playoff game the season before. And I know he was really good in 2024 when they picked him up, and that was huge for the team after Narvison and
they were bleeding. It's this was a gaping problem, and you stabilized it. So,
but he's an older kicker. He had an injury last year. You can see that he's not effective the longer the kicks are. You can see there's declining leg strength, and I think that's part of this too. Is okay, we see what he was last year, and he had all those misses in Chicago, and you're projecting him out to 2026. As he gets older, is his leg going to continue to decline? Probably. It's father time, and you got this young kid that can hit him. So yeah, it's a risk for sure. It's scary to trust a rookie kicker, but I mean, it's scary to trust Brandon McManus too. He hasn't given you enough confidence to believe he's going to go out there and make the kicks that he should be making. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with running with Smack right now and just letting him have. They're gonna say competition and all that stuff, and that's great. But it's his job unless he completely falls flat on his face. Let's see if he can do it. Like I'm fine with it, and we're gonna see, is he Mason Crosby or is he Brett Conway? And for people who don't remember Brett Conway, they drafted him after the '96 Super Bowl season. He was Chris Jackie's replacement because Chris Jackie was getting old and losing leg strength and all that. He was drafted, and I think he was like a 3rd or 4th round pick by Ron Wolf, Penn State kicker. He was a great kicker in college, and he didn't even make it out of training camp with them. They had to go and sign Ryan Longwell, who had just gotten cut by the 49ers, was undrafted. Longwell worked out great. Brett Conway
turned out okay.
Turned out okay, but not with the guy they were thinking, not with the guy they invested a draft pick in. So, let's hope Trey Smack isn't that. But yeah, I'm fine with it. It's going to make me nervous because he's a rookie kicker. But I mean, if McManus was your kicker, that's going to make me nervous too, because he's just not reliable enough.
Well, and the other thing is we don't know what was going on with the injury, right? So is that something that he totally can recover from, or is that something that's going to contribute to the aging and the inability? As you age, you lose the power, and you got the injury, and is that going to linger? The Packers know more about that than anybody else, so that's where I trust the decision. And I think, look, I wouldn't play poker with Goody. I'll tell you that much. Because you're right. Like coming into the offseason, you're thinking, all right, I mean, he still believes in McManus, and I think part of that is it's the same. It's almost the same behavior as cutting McManus, which is giving that confidence to who you think your guy is. And then all of a sudden you find out your guy is somebody else. Well, now that we're going to give that confidence to that guy. So as long as you think McManus is going to be the guy, you got to say he's the guy. He's the guy. We believe in him. We believe in him. Okay, now he's not the guy. All right, well, get out of here. You're gone. We believe in Smack. Smack's our guy. You get smacked, dude. Get out of here. So
McManus got smacked.
McManus got smacked. And so I think that's what that is it's total confidence in whoever you think your guy is. And yeah, it's sort of like an eye roll competition almost. But Harvisek's the franchise record holder, so that's not nothing. I mean, he's kicked in the NFL, and he's made good kicks in the NFL. He also had a very bad game that reminded us of maybe why McManus was rushed back from injury. So
in Haversik's defense, that game was the Giants game, which had crazy winds and all that too.
True.
Like, it was really so
true.
But they obviously didn't trust him enough, because they kept kicking and injured McManus over him. So, like, maybe he was missing him in practice. We don't know. Or maybe that was just, like, maybe it was Bisaccia's guy. And, like, we got to stay with McManus. He's the veteran who's done it in the NFL, and that's true. And they didn't want to ride with an unproven Harvisek. It is interesting, though. And Goody's end of season press conference, when he was basically being defensive of McManus, Bisaccia was still the special teams coordinator.
True.
He's not anymore. They drafted another kicker, and they cut McManus. So maybe McManus was really a Bisaccia guy. Maybe that was who Rich insisted upon having as his kicker. And, they made him happy and said, okay, McManus, we'll keep him, and that's going to be our guy. And now he's out of the building, and, they don't have the loyalty because Bisaccia is not there anymore. I don't know, but
a lot changes, man.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Oh, the NFL, right? Not for long. That's what that stands for. So, yeah. And I guess, back to the question of can a rookie kicker get it done? I should have probably pulled some stats of the best rookie kickers or something like that.
It's happened
I'll say
before.
This. Yeah. You don't have so I would say this, the stats around a rookie kicker are not so bad that you are familiar with them like the stats of a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks are just notoriously not successful. Even the best ones. Peyton Manning was a terrible rookie quarterback. There's a lot of examples of rookie quarterbacks that are just not good. And I think we have to go look. But even the ones that were good as rookies ended up not being good. Vince Young comes to mind. He makes a Pro Bowl as a rookie and then completely falls off a cliff. A lot of people blame Jeff Fisher for that, but point is, it's pretty obvious. If you're trying to win a Super Bowl this year, the rookie kicker's not the recipe. That's not the way to do it. or the rookie QB, excuse me. Rookie
No.
kicker, however, it's like I don't see that. I don't see that as being like a notorious thing where it's like, oh, you can't win with a rookie kicker. I think there have been some pretty successful ones out there.
Wasn't Dallas's kicker that Brandon? Wasn't he Aubrey? Wasn't he a rookie? He came in and he was making the 60-yarders and he was the big sense. I believe he was a rookie, right? Like he had.
Yeah, I'm pretty
he
sure
wasn't
he had a
drafted
great
though.
rookie season.
It's maybe I mean, look, we saw Anders Carlson, who was a rookie, wasn't that good. But like, if you go back and you compare what Carlson did in college to what Smack did, Smack was a much more accurate kicker. He was a better kicker. Like Carlson came out in that draft, and there were, I think, 2 other kickers drafted ahead of him who were higher rated kickers. The Carlson one was kind of like, all right, we got to take a kicker. And I think Bisaccia liked him. Bisaccia had coached his brother, and so he felt comfortable, like I can improve this kid and he'll be good and all. And he wasn't, but Smack was a much better college kicker than Carlson. So at least there's that. So yeah, that didn't work out, but there's been, I mean, Ryan Longwell was a good rookie kicker. I know he had an early season miss that I remember. He missed what would have been a winning kick against the Eagles, but after that, he was really good. Like he was really good as a rookie. I think Crosby was pretty good as a rookie. He had, a down year, but that wasn't his rookie year. That was a couple years in his career. Yeah, and there's been plenty of rookie kickers around the NFL. How many rookie kickers have won a Super Bowl? Yeah, probably not many. I off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but you can still be a pretty damn good rookie kicker and not win a Super Bowl because there's so many more things that go into it other than the kicker. So, yeah, I think rookie kickers all the time, it works out. And sometimes kickers, they got to bounce around like 2 or 3 or 4 stops before it clicks for them. But
well, yeah, so here I got Brandon Aubrey's stats pulled because he's regarded as probably the best kicker in the league right now. I would probably say, and I know there was a little buzz earlier in the offseason that maybe the Packers would go get him. But it looks to me like his rookie season was his best season, and not to say that the last 2 haven't been good, but his rookie season he made 94.7% of his field goals. He was 4 for 4 from 40 to 49, 10 for 10 from 50 plus, 10 for 10. 50 plus, and his long was a 60. I'll take it. I will take
sign me up for that.
So, I don't see him being a rookie as some sort of inhibitor or barrier or anything. And I'll tell you, and I've talked about this a little bit. I did get to spend time with him at the Shrine Bowl. My first impression, and the thing that I was trying to get to when I got to interview him, Trey Smack being him, is this guy built for pressure? Because I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, there's plenty of leg talent out there, and we saw that with Haversack, right? He's got the franchise record for longest field goal. Plenty of leg talent out there. What happens when the pressure's on and you have to perform? Do you get the yips or can you do it? And I think it's fair to say, and this was a question that I asked Trey. Is kicking like swinging a golf club? Right. Because, swinging a golf club, you're out on the range, you can feel pretty good about it. All right, I'm hitting them long, hitting them straight. Then all of a sudden you get on a hole and you fall apart. Your ball's in the woods or in the water and, you don't know what's going on. So that was what I was trying to get at with him. And man, everything I saw about him, heard from him, he's built for it. He wants that pressure situation. He's got a very competitive mindset from what I could tell. So, yeah, I have no problem believing that he can get it done as a rookie and beyond. Will he be the best kicker in the league? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. I don't think that's a fair prediction to make. I don't think anybody predicted that Brandon Aubrey would become the best kicker in the league. You're saying he was undrafted, right? So I think, what we got to do is look at this and go, can he get the job done? I think, yeah, absolutely. And if you watch some of his highlights at Florida, he makes that game-winning kick against Georgia. There's a big pressure moment, and his stats, his overall career stats at Florida are great, man. I think his longest was a 65, I want to say.
He was consistent. Like, I think he had the first game of the regular season last year, he missed a couple kicks in that game, but I think one of them was maybe blocked, or like a 58-yard or something like that. And then after that, he was pretty much lights out. And that's the other thing. Like the McManus, you can see the age. Like he doesn't have the leg strength that he did when he was in Denver. And the NFL's changed so much. Like a 50, 55-yard field goals, like those were tough to make. Now everybody's making them all the time. Like you don't even blink. Oh, somebody comes out, they line up for a 53-yarder. It's going to go in, and it does. You don't get that with McManus. And maybe having a younger kicker with more leg strength, the ability to drive the ball, can do that for you. And that was a struggle for McManus. So, he may have that leg strength. You still got to put it between the goalposts. So we'll see how that plays out. But, yeah, you need consistency. And with McManus, you just didn't have that. And then obviously, the glaring misses in the playoff games. Like you can't do that. And all the problems from the Chicago playoff game and, all the different plays you can go back and point to. And if they would have made this play, they could have won the game, all that. If he would have just made the kicks he was supposed to make, they would have won the game.
Right. And that's where I think it's unforgivable. You at some point have to, and again, if Goot is going to sit here and say sense of urgency, all right, well, what's your standard then, man? If leaving 7 points on the table of a playoff game is not a fireable offense, what's the standard? And how urgent are you? Are you just your sense of urgency to protect your decisions as a front office, or is it to win? And so, so Trey Smack got his college stats up here. His long last season was 56, which is the long of his college career, but he had a 55er in 24 and a 54 in 23. So he's been kicking 50 and beyond in college consistently. In total, he's 10 of 13 in 3 years at Florida from 50 and beyond. Pretty good. As far as college goes, that's pretty damn good. You may expect that in the NFL, but that's not necessarily the case in college. College kickers are that's a whole different thing there. So that's where I'm excited about it. I think he can get the job done. He seems, again, like what's going on between the ears. He seems like the guy that you want in a pressure situation that, you got to rely on him to get you the points. And our buddy Matthew Tan's got the question of the day for Trey Smack. Is he capable of kicking in the cold weather at Lambeau? Now that, fair question, right? And I don't have any stats about the games that, if he played any cold weather games against cold weather teams against Florida, most of those games are going to be down in the South in the SEC. But just, again, from what I saw, I don't think it matters. I don't think that guy's going to be affected by bad weather. Obviously the mechanics of things, you got to wonder about that. But he's certainly going to have an opportunity to adapt, right? They're going to be able to practice outside. They're going to be able to get reps outside in the cold and in the messy weather. So, I don't think his first cold weather kick in a game is going to be some sort of new experience for him. I think he'll have a chance to adapt and practice. And again, it's when you're in the elements are a thing, but the pressure won't be new. Right. That's really the things that have to combine is the pressure plus the elements. You get him adapted to the elements and you throw the pressure on top. I don't think that's going to change anything about him. I think he's got it. But we'll have to see. Yeah. So that's how it goes. Right.
We'll see when it happens. Like you don't know if he can kick in it until he kicks in those cold weather. Like you don't know. But I will say like Ryan Longwell came from California. Like it didn't really bother him. Mason Crosby grew up in Texas, I think, but he went to Colorado. But he grew up in Texas.
Yeah.
It's a lot different in Green Bay. So like, yeah, it could be a factor. You never know. We've seen it with punters, I think, a lot over the years where like they've had punters like early in the year, like booming punts, and you're like, okay, maybe they finally have a punter. And then you get to November, December, and they're shanking 30-yarders, and you're like, okay, they can't kick in the cold. Now Daniel Whalen can do that, so they finally found the punter. But yeah, you don't know until they're actually in the elements doing it. So we'll see with Smack. But yeah, I mean, other guys have done it before him, so it can be done. It can be, kicking in the cold. You have to experience it to do it, right? So.
And again, that's what practice is for. You might roll your eyes at that. That's fine, but you can't take it away from him. Like, going and doing it in practice, it is a real thing, from a receiver's perspective. I'll tell you what, Texas boy here, right? Went up to play in Wisconsin, and cold in practice is the same as cold in a game. It's not any different. In fact, cold in a game is probably less impactful because once you're in a game and you're in the heat of the competition, like your mind's more on that than it is on the elements. When you're in practice, you're more like, all right, when's this thing over? Like, get me out of here. I want to go back to my room. So, I really do believe he's got what it takes between the ears. And I think that that's what really is what makes a good NFL kicker these days, more so than the pure leg talent. But, we'll get the competition in camp. We'll see if Harvesek can give him a run for his money. I think Trey's the guy. I think it's his job to lose, and barring a collapse in camp, I think he's the guy. So there we are, man. And so speaking of camp, we did have rookie mini camp happen over the last week. We probably would have talked about that last week. Did you have anything that stood out to you in rookie mini camp? Any of the guys that I don't know, maybe if you had doubts about them, maybe you saw something about them that increased your confidence?
Not much. Not really, because it seemed like it was an orientation more than it was a practice or anything like that. Like, they didn't do a whole lot. They weren't lining up and doing team drills or anything like that. It was, a run through. This is how we practice. These are the drills we do. It was very, very light. So yeah, there's not much to take away from that. The only thing I'll say is some of these rookies talked after the practice that was open to the media. So you heard Brandon McManus talk, and he's 20 years old, going on 21. Really impressed. Like, he seems to get it. Like, he's mature. He's not one of these rookies that are coming in here cocky and thinking they're already the best player. And this isn't shades of Ahmad Carroll when he came to Green Bay as a first-round pick at cornerback. Like, he seems to get it. He seems to really love football. He talked about Charles Woodson, the Packers scout who had talked after they drafted him, was saying, like, every time he was in the football building at South Carolina, Cisse was there watching film, and it wasn't just his film or his team. Like, he would go back and watch previous players like Woodson, Stephon Gilmore, who was a South Carolina dude. So he's impressive. Like, he seems mature, ready to handle the NFL, which is a big thing for rookies. I'm not saying he's going to step in and be a starter right away or anything like that, but I don't think he's going to step in the moment's going to be too big for him. I feel like he's ready and he's prepared, and he's going to have, at least from a mental standpoint, he'll be ready to go. Like, you're going to be able to count on him and give him the football stuff, the playbook, and understanding things, and he'll be able to get that. And he's going to be a hard worker for him. Like, you can tell that. Now, it's all going to translate on the field, but it's so far, hearing him talk was really impressive. And yeah, I think they may have something there with him. Again, I'm not saying he's the week one starter. We talked about that after the draft. I don't know if he starts week one. I think there's definitely a chance for him when you look at the competition that he's up against, but it might not happen week one for him. But I think they might have something. And it just, listening to him talk, you didn't feel like this is a 20-year-old kid that's, like, doesn't know what the hell he's walking into. And, like, sometimes these guys talk and just like, okay, dude, like, you're in the NFL now. Like, wait until the veterans get there. Wait until the pads come on in training camp. You're going to get your wake-up call. Like, he didn't seem like that type. So that was really the only thing for me. Like, there wasn't a whole lot that came out of the rookie mini camp that was noteworthy or anything like that. But that was one thing that's caught my eye. And just, like, kind of researching Cisse since they drafted him and finding out more about him. It's impressive. Like, the dude loves football, and he's got that football IQ and that football mentality that I think is really going to help him.
He's certainly more mature than I was when I was 20. I'll say that easily. There's no contest there. But yeah, his maturity really stood out to me. I think there was one point, I don't know if somebody was asking him about if he plans to be the starter or how they plan on using him or whatever, but his answer was essentially like, look, we're a long way from that. I got to learn the system. I got to get in here. We got to study and figure things out. So I love that answer. And of course, you want a guy. And I think that there was a clip of the Bears corner, Muhammad, that, they asked him, is your goal to be a starter? And he was almost like offended by the question. And yeah, you want that confidence of course I'm trying to be the starter. Duh. But I would almost say that that's sort of like, that's sort of his default. He's like, you don't need to ask me about that. Like that's so obviously my goal. I'm focused on the things that I have to do to get there. That's what we're focused on. So yeah, I was blown away by his maturity. I really loved it. And this is going to sound like a knock on Jair Alexander, but he's like the anti-Alexander. Like when Jair came in, I loved his swagger, I loved his personality and the confidence, and you like that attitude is on your team and going against the other team. And we certainly saw that, like when he does the gritty against Justin Jefferson, stuff like that. But I think that also was part of the downfall, right? I don't know that Jair Alexander was the most mature dude. And, I think that he ultimately had some growing up to do. And a lot of these guys, and we don't know this about Jair Alexander or not, but, there's other examples of even quarterbacks coming in and they don't even study, right? Like they just go out there and they ball and they're that good. Like Michael Vick comes to mind, right? Like he came in and he didn't know how to read a defense, and he admitted that. Yeah, I think Brett Favre even said that one, that he didn't know how to read a defense either. And so like a lot of these guys come in and they're just oozing with talent, and that's great and it works to an extent. And Cisse certainly seems to have his share of talent, but it's really neat to see the maturity coming out. And that's what makes me really feel like, okay, this guy, the Packers probably feel like they got a steal for where they got him. And he feels like a guy that could be there for a long time. He can be that guy who almost grows into that kind of Charles Woodson type personality. I'm not saying he's going to be Charles Woodson ability, Defensive Player of the Year, Hall of Famer. I'm not saying that, but Charles Woodson had that personality of when he speaks, you listen because he knows what he's talking about. He's not wasting words. He's not out here, doing the gritty in people's face, which, again, I love that. But yeah, I mean, the maturity I thought was just outstanding. I loved that. And then I also want to say how much I loved Dennis Sutton going in and shaking everybody's hand. That I thought was very impressive. And, these are little things. This is all we get right now in the dead of the offseason. We got to take these little morsels and over-examine them. But you don't see that a lot. You don't see a guy shaking every beat reporter's hand before they start the interview. So I thought that was really neat. And, the more I analyze that pick, the more I'm glad he was a 4th-round pick instead of a 3rd-round pick, because the Packers haven't done very great in the 3rd round. But, boy, have they hit on some gems in the 4th. So, maybe he's the next kind of Evan Williams-like pick where, he comes in, has that impact right away, and just has a really high upside. And, all the signs I think point to him being a great player as well. He seems to be a mature young man and certainly has the physical tools. So yeah, there wasn't a ton, of football to take away from rookie minicamp, but it was neat to get to meet some of the personalities there. And, we were talking Trey Smack. I think one of the questions I saw him get asked is, who are you most looking forward to getting to play with? And I think he kind of said everybody, but I think he said also the punter, Daniel Whelan. He did not say McManus. He has avoided McManus. McManus did not reach out to him when he got drafted. So there was pretty immediately kind of a little bit of a tension there. It's like, this is either going to be a heated competition or, maybe McManus already had a foot out the door at that point. But yeah, so it was neat, I think, to meet some of the personalities that they brought in. And one of the players that I was impressed by his interviews. I've also been impressed by what I've heard from other people about him. Damani Jackson. I was not a fan of the pick. And he's one that I said I got to see at the Shrine Bowl. He did not stand out to me at the Shrine Bowl. I had my eye on. I mean, anytime you got an Alabama guy around or, whatever, you're going to watch guys like that. He just didn't catch my attention, didn't do anything super remarkable during that week. But everything I've heard about him says high upside. right? Like he's got physical tools for sure. But there's a lot of guys that are in his corner right now. Clinton Dix had an interesting take on him and is very obviously in his corner. But that I can't remember who did that interview. I hate to not give credit for that, but somebody interviewed Clinton Dix, who's now he's down there at Alabama in a player development role, and had very high praise for Jackson and really thinks that he's got what it takes to actually make it in the NFL. So if they hit on him, even as like CB3, CB2 eventual type guy, I don't think he's your CB1 upside kind of guy. Great pick. And, he seems like a mature young man. He seems like a guy who, wants to come in and do what it takes to earn his stripes. And so I was impressed by what I saw from him. So yeah, overall, from what you can take from rookie minicamp, I was pleased. I really liked it.
Yeah, and just further on Jackson, the dude was one of the top recruits when he came out of high school. He was a 5-star recruit. Everybody wanted him. He went to USC and then transferred to Bama. Like, he's got the talent. He's got good size, and he ran. He was a track guy. Like, he can run. He's got all the ability. But there was consistency issues at Alabama. He also was playing through an injuries last season there, which I think affected some things, affected his playing time and all that. But then by the end of the season, when they were in the SEC championship game and in the 2 playoff games, like he was a starter again for them. So yeah, he's got a lot of work to do and a lot to clean up, but like there's talent there. There's like really good talent there. And as a 6th-round pick, he's going to have to come in and do something on special teams. Like that's going to be his way in. And if he can do that, then he can stick around and who knows from there. I mean, like, say what we will about Carrington Valentine, like Carrington Valentine was a 7th-round pick. That's a great 7th-round pick. I'm not saying Carrington Valentine's a great player. He's not. But as a 7th-round pick, he far exceeded expectations for a 7th-round pick. And now you get Jackson in the 6th. So maybe they found another player there. But yeah, the talent's there. The like all the tools are there. Now it's a matter of, can he put it together? Can he make it work? So yeah, it's a big project for Daniel Bullock's the new cornerbacks coach.
Yeah, no, and I think he's probably up to task, right? And these guys already, and of course they're rookies, so they're going to have high praise for everybody. You don't want to come in talking crap unless you're like maybe the 1st overall pick, but even then you're probably not doing that. So yeah, I overall I thought it was good. I was a little surprised to see number 89 in rookie camp, Chase Claypool. They bring him in as deep as the receiver room is. I'm not sure what the thought process was there. He's obviously, physically got the tools for high RAS, whatever. LaFleur seemed like it was maybe a good idea. And then the next day he's gone. So
yeah,
he did not get signed, did not hang around. I mean, what is that? Is that just worth kicking the tires?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's obviously a guy they liked before because they were trying to trade for him from Pittsburgh.
True.
And he went to the Bears because Pittsburgh wanted the Bears pick because they figured it would be higher than Green Bay's was in the 2nd round. And it was. Right. But it was great that the Packers also didn't get him because that was pretty much it for his career.
Waste of a pick, yeah.
Yeah. And he's never been good, but the dude's ginormous for a receiver. He's like 230-some pounds, and he could run back in the day. I don't know, if he can run anymore. So I think it was one of those. He's attempting to come back. I don't think he hasn't even caught a pass since like the 2023 or
2023. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those, hey, we like this guy in the past. He wants a shot. He's big. It's not even a roster spot. He's a tryout guy. Like, just bring him in for a day or two and see what he looks like. What does it hurt? And, so they did that. They didn't sign him. And maybe at some point they do go back to him and sign him. But I would think if they were going to sign him, if they had interest, they would have done it that weekend. So it was, that was a strange one. That was blast from the past there. But I don't see like where he gets on the field for you anyway for the Packers, or like what's he gonna do for you? Like it's just, I don't know. But it's worth a shot to look at a guy who once had really good tools as a receiver.
Yeah, and he had some good games with the Steelers. I mean, I remember seeing his fantasy points go through the roof a few weeks, and so there was something there. I don't know what happened and why that flame went out, but it definitely seems like there's not much left there. Although, again, the Packers' receiving room is deep, so you got to be kind of impressive just to have a shot. You know, you're not going to bring somebody in training camp that's just vanilla or just okay, like, because you're not going to make it. And you already know that. Don't waste the spot. You got competition elsewhere. You know, save that spot for other competition. So, yeah, I mean, there was a part of me that's going, oh, well, I mean, I hope he forces them to stick around and give him that chance to compete in training camp. He did not. So here we are. He's probably on his way out of the league. Maybe he's headed to Canada or UFL or something. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, the rookie mini camp, again, what you can take from it, I was very pleased. I like the guys that they got, the personalities, the maturity. You can definitely tell there was a consistent type of character that they brought in. There's just not a whole lot of Jair Alexander-like guys, if I can put it that way. But yeah, so other than that, what other moves do you think they've got up their sleeves this offseason, man? Like, I mean, is there room for anything else at this point?
I hope so. I think there are some spots they need to address. So Goody mentioned after the draft, like, he wished he could have drafted a tight end, a wide tight end, so like an inline blocking tight end, and he couldn't do that. So I would look for that at some point, whether, it's soon, maybe it's during camp, whatever. But him specifically coming out and saying he wanted to draft a tight end and he was kind of regretting not being able to do that tells you they're looking for one. For me, I still think they need a nose tackle. Like, I'm not trusting that to a third-round rookie, Chris McClellan. I like McClellan a little bit. I think he's got versatility. I don't think he's always going to be just a straight-up big dude in the middle playing nose tackle. Like, I think they're going to want to move him around. But, like, there's really nobody else that can be your Gilbert Brown, even a TJ Slayton, be that big nose tackle that you're going to need in the middle. Like, that's not Javon Hargrave. He doesn't want to do that. They asked him to do that at times in Minnesota, and it wasn't a fit for him. They want him, he's going to be a pass rusher. He's going to be trying to penetrate into the backfield. So, like, Nazir Stackhouse, he obviously wasn't ready last year. The fact that they were signing guys off the street, claiming guys off waivers late in the year, and playing those guys ahead of Stackhouse kind of tells you how they felt about him. Jonathan Ford, who was one of the guys they got right at the end of the regular season and played him ahead of Stackhouse. Like, I'm not trusting him again. Jordan Riley is coming off a torn Achilles that I think happened in the Baltimore game. So, like, he's not even on the radar until late in the year, if at all. So, like, who's your run-stuffing nose tackle that in this Gannon defense they're going to need at times, because they're going to be a 3-4 defense. Now, we might not see a ton of 3-4, but we're going to see that time. You're going to need a nose tackle. I don't know if a rookie can do that. Like, it's a big transition for any rookie to the NFL, but for, like, defensive linemen, like, you don't see those guys always having an impact. Right? It takes them some time. So that's when I would, and there's nobody out there really for agency. Like, they're all picked up, or picked over. So is it a trade, or this is going to be one of those positions you kind of just keep your eye on? Does somebody get cut between now and camp? Something happened during training camp or at cut down time. But that, to me, nose tackle, and I would still like another offensive lineman, like one that could play tackle, like be a swing tackle, because you get some injuries. I don't know who your tackles are. Like, Darian Kennard, I guess, could be a right tackle, but after that, like, something happens at left tackle, who's your left tackle? Like, you're going to start flip-flopping Zach Tom over there, or you're going to put Anthony Belton there? Like, then you're changing multiple positions. I don't know. But, yeah, if it was me, I would really nose tackle and another offensive lineman would be two positions that I would really be hoping to strengthen. Cornerback, too, is I would like, if there's another veteran out there, and I know people are still talking about Trevon Diggs. Look, like, if they cut Trevon Diggs early in the offseason. They played him for one game, then he got one snap against the Bears, and they caught him right after the season, and he's been on the street ever since then. They wanted to bring him back, they would have, and they haven't yet. Nobody else has picked him up. Like, I don't think they have interest in Diggs. Maybe if somebody goes down with an injury, maybe they'd be interested again. But like, I don't think that it's going to be Diggs. But if there's another veteran out there at some point, sure, I'm all, give me another cornerback to strengthen that room. But for me, primarily, it would be nose tackle, offensive line.
Yeah, and so you're mentioning there's nobody out there. There's a couple of guys. I think the issue with the guys that are out there is they're older. So they're definitely outside of the typical type guy that they're looking for. And then you got to go pretty far down the list to find, your next guy who's available and not up there in age. Let's see here. We got no, not even him. So yeah, the list is not great as far as who's out there and who's available. There might be an opportunity to trade for somebody, which obviously we saw them willing to do that with the pass rusher situation last year with Micah. So you can't ever take that off the table. And we could be sitting here for the next hour speculating trades that could happen. So there's guys out there. I think you do have to leave room for Stackhouse and Brinson to have a nice year 1 to year 2 leap. They get the full off season in the weight room in the Packers program. They may just have a great deal of confidence in those guys. Stackhouse, pretty big dude. He can be that middle eater. But yeah, I agree with you. I would like to see another person added there, and that may be something where if you do get an injury, you see that sense of urgency go up pretty quick. But other than that, yeah, the Trevon Diggs thing, I don't necessarily understand why you wouldn't at least bring him in for camp. Again, he's got relationships with, he's got a good relationship with Micah. You got to see him a little bit. Unless there was just something about him you just didn't like, fair enough. I don't know that there was enough time that he was with the team for that to be the case. Again, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe he's not a nice guy. I don't know. Maybe you don't like the character, or, he doesn't study his book or whatever. But yeah, I'm not sure who that would be, but I do leave room for year 1 to year 2 growth for Stackhouse and for Brinson. Stackhouse more so because he's the bigger body guy, and Brinson's probably more like the other guys that they've already got there. But yeah, I agree with you on that one. I don't know that you need to add another body at corner. We got our friend R. Showers here with, he said, I saw a Rasul rumor that was, he was talking to 4 teams, including Green Bay. I wouldn't mind bringing Rasul Douglas back. I think that, just from a leadership perspective and kind of an adult in a young room, I would probably even prefer him over Trevon Diggs.
Yes.
You know who he is. I don't think who he is has changed. I don't think he's somebody you expect to come in and be CB1 if you need him to be. I think that he's more of like, he could be a nice stability piece at CB2, or he's in there kind of for depth and he's really adding value in the film room and in the locker room from a leadership perspective, which they do value that. So that's one that I would be more interested in than Diggs, but there are a couple options out there for corner if they need to add more to that room. But, we're mentioning like the maturity from Cisse. How does he gel with the other guys that are there? You do have St. Juice coming in too. Like, you can't overlook that. So there's bodies in the room now. So you don't necessarily need to bring in another guy just for the sake of having enough guys, especially if those guys are on the street and, and how you might be able to reliably expect them to be on the street, if the need comes up. But yeah, and then our Showers, or Uncle Stepan, Uncle Stepan. Who gets the ball if Jacobs misses any time? I think that's a fantastic question. The running back room is quietly rather thin. If you're going to throw Marshawn Lloyd at me, I'm going to tell you I'm not interested.
I'm not throwing him because if I throw him, he might get hurt.
Please don't throw him. You're going to break him. He's made, we talked about how, Watson was made of paper or made of glass. Good Lord, you can't breathe too heavy on Lloyd. So, yeah, to me, Lloyd's not even on the roster. And if he is, that's just total icing on the cake. One name I will bring up here is Damian Martin.
Martinez.
Is it Damian Martin? Is it Martin?
Martinez.
Damian Martinez. He was out of Miami. He started out at Oregon State. He had a very good college career. Now they've got him. He was on the practice squad to finish the season. I think he will absolutely factor into that RB2, RB3 competition. I think Brooks probably has the RB2 thing pretty well locked up just from a pass protecting standpoint. But RB3 is certainly up for grabs. And Martinez could absolutely go get that role. He's a good running back, and he may be one that needed a little bit more maturing. Getting into the NFL. I don't know why he was available. Was it Seattle that he was with?
Yeah, Seattle.
So yeah, Seattle's got a deep running back room, so it may just not have been room for him there, and he may needed a little bit more maturing before that was going to be an option. But yeah, Martinez is one to definitely keep an eye on. He will be a factor in training camp.
That's a good call. And I think the running backs too, you're not going to know a whole lot until the pads come on. And really once you start playing preseason games, and then you see what you have. But Martinez is a good one. That's one to keep an eye on. And I just think you can find, if you need a running back 2 or a running back 3, you can find that guy. Somebody's going to be available in July or August or beginning of September when they're cutting down the rosters. You can pick that guy up. Emmanuel Wilson was an undrafted dude from Division II, and he made the roster as a rookie. You can find guys. Chris Brooks was a guy they claimed off waivers after he got cut by the Dolphins at the end of training camp. So you can find that guy. Yes, right now you're looking at it and you're like, okay, Brooks is more of a pass protector, blocker. He'll catch some passes. He doesn't run. Wilson was the better running as far as carrying the ball goes. But and Lloyd's, anything you get out of Lloyd is a bonus at this point. So who's that guy? Maybe it's Martinez, who you mentioned, but I think it might be somebody else's another team's roster that you pick up later on, and that's fine because those guys are out there. So I'm not. It definitely might be a position they need to address, but I think they can. I'm not that worried about that.
Yeah, and you also mentioned the tight end position, and our friend Chris the Casual in over here, he says, what about Russell Maryland Jr., tight end from SMU? Yeah, I think they really like him. Yeah, he is, and I think that they like him for the room, and again, you don't know kind of what their feelings are on Musgrave as much as we may not be optimistic about Musgrave, but I think that they see him as a nice tight end pickup, and that may be keeping them. We talked about Njoku, and now he went down to I was about to say San Diego, but to the Chargers, LA. I think getting Maryland is that was a move that prevented them from wanting to bring in another tight end. I think they're pretty high on him, and I like him. His highlights from SMU are fun. I think he could be fun in the offense. But yeah, so I was kind of rooting for Njoku a little bit, but now that he's off the market, I'm not sure that there's another tight end out there that I'd really be chomping at the bit to have them bring in. Maybe we need to look at that list here. But
the only one that I know that would be, kind of fit would be Will Dissly, who was up in Seattle and then he was with the Chargers. He had some decent years with the Seahawks, but he's more of that kind of inline. He can block, but he's going to catch some passes. Tight end, and that's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. There may be others out there, but it's not much at this time of year. So.
You got to go pretty far down the list, and it's the pickings are slim.
And I mention it because it's something that Goody mentioned after the draft. He wished he could have been able to take a tight end, particularly a wide tight end. So I think at some point he's going to look to address that. I know they probably like Josh Wiley, and he did a decent job after he came up from the practice squad last year. So he's definitely in the mix to be one of the 3 guys, but. If they can add to that, I think they're definitely going to.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's a lot that can happen. Guys can get cut, cast off. There's a lot that's going to happen in training camp. Certainly more room for trades. But the one thing, and kind of maybe to circle this back or bring this full circle, I think that Goody is very much showing you that he has a high sense of urgency. He's not going to waste time with people who he doesn't believe are up to standard. Like we said, with Hobbs, with the kicker situation, if he sees a move that can be made that will improve the team and check one of those boxes, I think he's going to do it. And that's where, like, to your point, like Diggs isn't back in there. Why not? Like, this is the time to bring him back in, get him in for as much of the offseason as you can if you think that you're going to have him in for camp to compete. So I don't think that'll happen. I don't think that there's probably very many free agent signings left out there for that reason. Is, again, if you want to bring people in to compete in camp, you want them there for as much of the offseason as you can get them there so that they have the best chance of competing in camp, right? And so I think it's more likely going to be situations of opportunity that might show up. Again, guys getting cut, trades happening. I think for the most part, this is your 2026 roster. I think you've got the majority of it here, the starters and all of that. But the one thing that, again, I want to just pound the table on is do not discount the improvement that can happen in an offseason. Guys will get better, will get stronger, will get faster. And you have now a new system with Gannon. And, well, not a system, but a new philosophy, I guess we'll say, with Gannon. And that can change a lot of things, right? And I think one thing that I really liked hearing Gannon say and emphasize is that if our players aren't good at something, we're not going to do it. And that is very, very, very important. Anybody who suffered through the Joe Barry years understands this. You might have a thoroughbred world champion horse. You're going to ask him to climb a tree. He's going to fail. He's not going to be good at it, right? So if you're asking these guys to do something that they're not good at, it does not matter how good of a football player they are. Preston Smith is just not CB1. He's just not. And you're asking him to be CB1, he's going to fail. So I love that Gannon emphasizes if our guys aren't good at it, we're not going to do it. We're going to be what they are good at, and we're going to do what they are good at. And so what I think we can be excited about from that is you might have, especially with a guy like Stackhouse, say, right? Anybody who was a rookie last year who, showed some ability or physical ability, athleticism, whatever the case may be, but didn't quite work out. They've got a second chance here to reprove themselves. So you might see, all right, you got Stackhouse in there. He was okay at this, but we really needed him to do that because that's what Hafley's system called for. Well, now erase that part of the board, throw Stackhouse back out there, figure out what he's best at, and harness that. He's a big dude, and he did get early playing time for a reason as an undrafted free agent rookie. And UDFA rookies don't usually see the field early on. He did. So there was something there. There's talent there. And that's where I kind of look forward to seeing how they bring the most out of these guys, especially on defense. On offense, I think there's a lot less mystery, right? Like you know what you got. You know who these guys are. There's probably room for the offensive line to gel a little bit more, to get a little bit better, especially the younger guys like a Belton. Say he should be able to take a nice step forward. But for the most part, you know what the offense is. You want to see what the defense can be. And you have so much talent on that defense right now. There's a ton of talent on that defense. Bring it forward. And I, from what Gannon says, I trust him to do that. I trust that they're going to do that. So that's it. For us being in the dead of the offseason, I'm very excited about 2026 and seeing what we have so far. We got some mini camps and OTAs up ahead before we start counting down the days to training camp. So we'll get to see a little bit of real football here in a little bit. But yeah, for what we know now, I'm excited, man. I like where this team's at. I like what the front office is doing. I like what the coaches are saying. I like what the players are saying. So I think you got to be happy about it. What do you think, man?
Yeah, it's time to be excited. This is the time. And, there's a schedule coming out too later this week, so we'll be able to talk about that next week. So we'll be able to, plan ahead and see who and when that this team
I like the home opponents. I got to say, I do. I like the home opponents.
Yeah, there's some cool ones in there. So that'll be nice to, to get the schedule. That's the next big NFL event. And then it's, OTAs, mini camp gets a little quiet, but before you know it, it's going to be training camp. So going back to what you said, internal improvement is going to be the biggest thing for this team, much more than any rookies they just drafted, because rookies, you're not going to get big contributions from them in all likelihood. Some you might, but it's got to be internal improvements. And they didn't go out and sign a ton of players. Hargrave can help, and St. Juice can help, and hopefully Sky Moore can help on returns. But you need the guys that are already here to be better, to be healthy, number one. Improved health is going to go a long way for this team because they were sitting there at 9-3-1 with a big lead at Denver, and then Parsons goes down, Zach Tom goes down, and Wyatt had gone down a couple weeks before, so it all fell apart. So you need health, and you need internal improvement, and that's going to be the biggest deciding factor for 2026 Green Bay Packers.
No doubt. And this is the part of the show. It's always a little fun to poke some fun at our friends around the NFC North. The Bears now have their second early retiree of the offseason. What is going on down in Indiana? I mean, excuse me, Chicago. Maybe Indiana.
Pretty soon.
Geez, man. 2 guys that retire. Dahlman, he's out. And she's like, oh, we're making some business decisions. Okay. Now you got a guy who should be just like thanking all of the gods that he prays to that he's got a chance to be in the NFL. And he's like, the Bears, though? All right, I'm going to retire. See ya. Like, dang. At least we don't have players creating a pattern of retiring early from the NFL after becoming Green Bay Packers. That is such an unsettling pattern, man.
Yeah. And the Dahlman one is, that's huge for them because you went out and they just paid that guy. Right. He was their big free agent signing on the offensive line before last season, and he played well for him. And they get 1 year out of him, and he's going to retire. Like he's a big piece of that offense. So now there's a trickle down. First they trade for Garrett Bradbury, who he stinks. And then they draft a kid from Iowa, but they drafted him in the second round, like way before anybody was projecting him to go that high. I wasn't a big fan of what I saw of the kid from Iowa, but who knows? Maybe it works out. But now you're going from having one of the best centers in football to big question mark there, and you're spending the second round pick and hoping this kid, overspending a second round pick for somebody who probably should be in a 4th or 5th round pick. Yeah.
Look at their third round pick.
Yeah, they had a very questionable draft. They have 10 tight ends now, which is great and all, but and drafted. Weren't they the team that I think they were the ones that drafted a receiver who's
that's Xavier Thomas. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the one you're talking about. Okay.
Third round, and I think most people had him 6th or 7th round.
Right, undrafted. Yeah. So it's the Bears. Ben Johnson's a genius. Ryan Poles is a genius.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw one of their fans on Twitter compare Xavier Thomas. They said, oh, Ben Johnson has his Jahmyr Gibbs now.
They played 2 different positions.
Good Lord. Yeah, they played 2 different positions. One was a top 15 pick, and the other one might have gone undrafted, not for the Bears. Let's get real here, folks.
Yeah.
So, no, I think it's a good time of year to be grateful that we're Packer fans, and we don't celebrate off-season championships here like our other friends in the North have to do because they don't have real championships to celebrate. But yeah, so all in all, a lot to look forward to. Next week, we'll break down the schedule release. We'll talk a little bit about that, see where they have the Cowboys coming back to Lambeau. We were saying you got to have Parsons back for that game. So that's got to be an October or later game, you got to imagine. But yeah, so we'll get to dive into that, chew on the schedule a little bit next week and see what that looks like. But you know what? It's always good to be a Packers fan, man. So if y'all love the Pack Weekly Pod, tell a friend, bring them next time. Tell them to come hang out with us, talk some Pack, and tell us why the Pack are going to win the Super Bowl in 2026, man. We're building Super Bowl champs this next season. So let's talk about it. Let's enjoy it. Let's have some fun. Most of all, get on over to YouTube, type in Packers Talk Network, hit that subscribe button. We want you to do it right now because it helps us out a lot, and that's a real deal. That's why everybody on the YouTube tells you to do it. It's a very helpful thing, and it's a very low effort thing for you to do. So go do that. Do it right now and spike that like button if you like this episode and had fun with us and you believe that Trey Smack is going to be the kicker of the future, wipe off all of the records that Mason Crosby set for points and be the greatest kicker in franchise history. Do it right. Spike that like. Do it again. But most importantly, come back with us next week. Hang out Monday night, 9:30 p.m. Central. We're streaming live, talking Pack, having a good time, and always, always, always go Pack.